But yeah, that'll wrap it up for 21 through 30. Let's move on to a 19 to 10. No, sorry, 20 through
20
11. I just did
to
19 through 10.
11.
20 to 11. Dave, give me your 20 through 11.
Sure thing. At 20, I've got a returner in Hunter Salas. At 19, another returner in Milan Momosilovic at Iowa State. Both stayed, shockingly.
Yeah.
This was a situation where both were in the draft, both could have came out, both stayed. At 18, I've got Kanan Catchings. At 17, I've got Bogolyub Markovic. I can't say his name. Saved my life. 16, I've got Liam McNeely. 15, I've got Ian Jackson. 14, Con Knipple. 13, Noah Essingway. 12, Cam Jones. 11, Ben Seraph.
Alrighty.
Or Ben Seraph. I don't know if it's Seraph or Seraph. I've heard both now, and I'm just, it's clearly one pronunciation off.
Yeah, all right. My list at 20, I have Rocco Sikorsky. I always want to say Sikorsky, like another white guy there. 19, I have Carter Knox. 18, I have Dink Pate. 17, I have Jaleel Bethea. 16, I have Cam Jones. 15, I have Drake Powell. 14, Ian Jackson. 13, Boogie Fland. 12, Kaman Malawak. And 11, Ben Seraph. So there we go. We have the same number 11. Let's start at the back. Actually, let's start there. We both have Ben Seraph at number 11, so that's a good place to start. What are your overall thoughts on Ben Seraph?
I mean,
Seraph?
Who doesn't? Yeah, one or the other. And again, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've heard both now, so I can't tell you. Maybe it's just lazy English or unlazy English where we pronounce every letter.
Yeah.
I like him as a secondary creator. He's playing a little bit of point guard, a little bit of combo right now. It's interesting because he gives me like crazy Manu vibes.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
And I love that already. We Agree podcast is back, baby. So he had one of the best performances at the U18 tournament. Absolute fire, like across the board. It was insane. The best game of the tournament happened with him. And oh my God, Nolan Traore, also a great tournament. We'll talk about him later. But
we'll talk about him.
That U18 tournament was basically a gold mine for European prospects. And watching him be able to not only create but shot make, play all three levels. Defensively, he's got active hands. He's not necessarily a great defender because he's not athletic enough to keep up when pressed on by either bigger guys or quicker guys. So he's going to be somebody who you're going to end up having to hide on defense likely, or pair with someone who can obviously cover up for that situation.
Yep.
But offensively, I mean, this guy just gets it. Like, it is
everywhere.
Instinctual, and he is making all the passes you need to make. He's reading defenses. He's playing smart with the ball. Is he a little limited as far as using both hands? Yes, but he's still young. Like, and again, that's the thing. Like, these guys are 18, 19 years old. So I think the expectation is like for someone who has his level of production, especially at Ulm now, where it's like carried over. Like U18 tournament, I get it. You're playing against your peers, but going to play Ulm versus Portland Trailblazers, like B squad, and still holding up and having a really good game was impressive. And the crazy thing to me is, so far Ulm, every game has been like slow start, strong finish, slow start, strong finish. And he like goes off, whether it's fourth quarter, overtime games, like that's really when he shines. And it's almost like they're like holding him back a little bit, like let the team play. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, and go. And it clicks. Yeah. So really excited about him as far as just, I think he can be a top 10 prospect. There's just some guys maybe with more right now.
I find it funny because I have no spoilers, but you've only said one of my top 10 players, so I think we might have 9 players in common in our top 10. I don't know yet, or you just don't have one of my top 10 players in your board, which is also a possibility. Ben Seraph, I knew nothing about him before I watched him against Portland, and you were telling me that OCD game where like they were cutting cameras and they were using
God,
that was the game.
Buy the TV rights because that was the worst game to watch. We gave it 4 minutes and we both were like, I can't look, my eyes are broken.
But I went back and watched the highlights of the main guys of Noah and him and Ben. Like, you were telling me that you didn't know about his shot, and then I was watching him and I'm like, it looks fine to me. And I think he was 3 of 4 or 3 of 5, something like that in that game from 3. He does everything right? If the shot becomes elite, like I actually think it probably can. The sky is the limit for him, to be honest, because I think defensively he's solid. He has the ball skills. He's a good passer, and his shot looks fine. Like, there's really no negatives. The only reason I don't have him as a top 10 prospect is because I really do think that there are 10 like above prospects like in this draft. I don't want to I don't spoil anything, but I think there are I mean, the only guy that you've mentioned in my top 10, because no spoil, he's going to be there, is Noah and Essengay, who's also the. So we'll wrap him into this discussion as well. But Ben Seraph, yeah, I just think he's a phenomenal player. I think there's really nothing wrong with him, and I think he's a pretty he's kind of how I looked at Franz a couple years ago. Is I think he's very safe because I don't know, Franz is starting to hit that upper echelon of potential that we thought he might have. But even if Ben Seraph doesn't hit that, I think he's an NBA player as current stands. And when you're 18, 19, and I already can look at you and be like, I think you're going to have a long NBA career, that's basically a top 15, top 12 guy for me already. And he just, every intangible is right with him. I really don't see a single thing wrong with him.
Yeah. Going left is already game planned against for him. That's the problem. He only goes left, and he can dribble with his right hand, but he can't finish with his right. He will always bring it back to his left, and that is becoming a problem as it's been hey, this is 5 games in a row, 6 games in a row, where it's defenses are starting to set up and hedge far enough. You know that you will. When they played James Harden and played defense behind him, basically.
Yeah.
To force him one way because they knew they're what are you gonna do about it?
But
kind of situation.
But that comes down to coaching though.
Not that far sold.
No, not that far. But it also comes down to the NBA game. It is very not easy, but it's more easily manipulative than international games that you can find your way to your spot regardless. You know exactly what half NBA players are going to do, but they still get to their spots. That's what makes them NBA players, right? But in international game, as soon as they deny your left, you're swinging the ball and cutting. That's exactly how it goes. So I don't know. It'll be interesting more to see him go when he goes into the NBA game to see. We can kind of talk about Noah Essengay too, because we'll wrap them both in. I have him in my top 10. You'll see later where, but
and I had him just a couple spots where I have him 13.
Yeah, I mean the big issues with him, fouling and turnovers. We'll see if those mitigate themselves a little bit. But basically everything
young
else.
And I feel like he's still learning the game. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And role wise, he's also kind of been tweener. He's played a little bit of 4, a little bit of 5, a little bit of 3. And I'm not sure. One of the big things, I forget which podcast I was listening to where it's talking about. They thought he was like a 4 or 5 tweener, and he's not good enough to play the 4, and he's too small to play the 5. And I was like, I don't see that. I don't see him ever being a 5.
Yeah, I don't see the 5.
I think he's like a 3-4 tweener, and I think that the shot he hit a lot of in the game against Portland, but up to that point in the season, he's a bit of a gamble. It's an in progress, but you're gambling on the fact that he is just a smooth role player right now with upside intangibles.
Yep.
Because he moves really well for his size. I think he's got good enough ball handling skills for his size. I don't think he's gonna go out there and be like your primary ball handler at 6'8", but I think he moves well with the ball.
Yeah, that was why I have him as a top 10 prospect, is his movement, right? I think he needs the game needs to slow down a little bit for him, which I think will happen. But when you're that size, was 6'9", I think is what they list him as, and you can move like that, I don't think he's a 5. I don't like that. Unless you're playing against the Suns.
They were trying to hide him basically and say and again, I don't want to whatever names are names, but he marked him out as basically he can't shoot well enough to trust as a 4, so he has to be a 5.
But again, my whole thing is
he's a kid.
Percentages aren't what I look at when I look at shooting. His shot isn't broken. Again, it's not I look at him and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's going to take a complete restructure of his shot. The shot looks okay. I wouldn't say I don't think he's going to become I nowhere near the who was it that we were talking about earlier? Hugo. I don't think I have complete disregard that he could turn into an average shooter. But again, if he's going to be this size and all the other things that he offers, he doesn't need to be an elite shooter. I don't know. I think his ball handling is above average for what his role is going to be in the NBA. Because like you said, I don't think he's going to be an initiator. He's not going to be a primary ball handler. But as a secondary guy who can have actions run for him, I think he's fine. Especially the number one thing is going to be his team getting him downhill as soon as he catches the ball. If he's going straight towards the back, that's where he's going to be great. Because I think his passing actually is good. Again, like I said, though, once the game slows down for him, I think the turnovers will regress a little bit. That just has to happen. That's going to happen naturally over time. It's the same thing with Edey we were talking about. The game will slow down for him and the foul trouble will get better. We saw the same thing with Jaren Jackson Jr. when he was young too. You just got to get a year or two under your belt in the NBA. Some players like Wemby, it happens like that, and that's why they're number one prospects and all that. But most guys, it takes a year or two for the game to slow down. But dude, Noah has just about everything. If that shot can just come along a little bit, he's an insane prospect. He could easily be a top 5 guy by the end of the year if everything goes right, but that's top end potential. The other guy that we all both had was Ian Jackson. I had him at 14.
I had him at 15.
Yeah, so you give me your thoughts on Ian Jackson.
I think that as far as guys who finish at the rim
Yeah.
from a guard position go, like he has that dog in him. Like, and I love that. Like he attacks the rim. He goes for whether it's putbacks or whether it's cutting. Usually top of the key stuff was in a lot of his game film,
Yeah.
which is interesting because he's just crashing from completely left field basically, and it's just like, all right, yeah, no, he goes up and gets it though. So I like the way he plays the game. Shot standpoint, so far okay. No red flags for me. I don't think he's elite. You know, I don't expect him to shoot 40%, but he should be passable enough. But yeah, I think he's just a well-rounded guard. Honestly, both ends of the ball. I'm curious to see. Like I had him, and the question for me, I was going between him and like Drake Powell. Like I don't have Drake on my list, and I don't know.
Wow.
And again, it's a partial omission
Yeah.
by me. Like I had him at some point, and he slid out because of I was just throwing names in at some point.
But they're both so good
But
defensively.
also,
I was gonna say.
they're both great defensively. I don't know if Drake doesn't play with the same intensity sometimes.
Yeah.
I think that's my one thing. But also the role and playing time at North Carolina is going to be limited because they rolled back a lot of.
They're going to be real good.
So
they're going to be real good.
they're going to be a very good team. I don't know how much he's going to get to show, and that's one of the things where I know you're like I don't judge off points whatever, but I'm like if you just don't get on the court enough.
Yeah,
it's going to be very hard to take a swing. I mean, we have seen guys go with a couple minutes of playing time and bench players and that kind of
Remember
stuff.
Kyrie got drafted number 1 with like 7 games. It was, I mean, it's
Yeah,
Kyrie.
those were-
I know it's
those
Kyrie.
were-
It's Kyrie. I know. No, I actually Drake Powell was the one guy I wanted to talk about, is because I think defensively he's elite, like elite defensively.
Yep.
Now, will that get him on the court for North Carolina? That's the question for you, right? His shot, he's definitely. I think he's more limited offensively than Ian Jackson, obviously.
Yes.
Ian Jackson, I don't think either of them like they're okay. This is gonna sound. I don't know if I sound. They're both athletic, but they don't scream crazy athleticism when I watch them. They
don't show it at least.
Yeah, exactly. They both just move super well. I really like Drake Powell. He was the kind of guy. He started lower on my board, and then I kept going back and kept watching a little bit more. And I'm like, I can see an NBA player there. I can see a guy who could play next to most people because his shot looks fine. He's not a guy who's going to be creating off the dribble really much at all. No. I kind of look more like a Dorian Finney-Smith, right? Like he doesn't have the length to be a 5 like Dorian Finney-Smith, but Dorian Finney-Smith is I'm going to catch the ball in the corner. If I have the shot, I'm going to shoot it. If I don't, take it back. That's his game. Yeah. Drake Powell has a little bit more ball skills than that, but he's still super limited, and I don't think he's going to get a big chance to show it on North Carolina, like you said. But
I was gonna say he gives me like Leaky Black vibes. Literally, again, I'm taking like former player, but like that's exactly.
I liked Leaky Black too, so I mean that maybe.
I know, and like he was a really good college player. He was an incredible defender, and he worked on adding the shot. And I think he got some minutes last year actually for Charlotte.
Yeah.
So like I'm not saying like he's gonna be like a 4-year player in college, and it'll take that long. But I am saying like I think that a defensive stopper like him is going to take a lot. On that end, like Ryan Dunn didn't get drafted until his 3rd year.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I think Powell's more advanced than Dunn was, though. I mean, even from my limited research.
Offensively?
Yeah, offensively for sure. But now apparently Dunn.
He's a step ahead.
Apparently Dunn is like can shoot now.
Well,
I don't know where that came from.
Not.
Well, we're not. It's the first NBA game. But yeah, I know. I think Drake Powell's more advanced than he is offensively. I think, but defensively, Ryan Dunn was. I mean, dumb elite. Ian Jackson, like you said. Very high rim pressure, and that's something that can translate pretty easily. I spoke about earlier about Noah getting downhill as he catches the ball. That's kind of the same thing for Ian Jackson because ball skills are limited, but defensively, again, he's just a monster. Like you said earlier for who was it? It was for Hugo again. Diving on the floor for loose balls. If there's a ball there, he's going to get it. I think of that when I think of Ian Jackson when I was watching him. Like I use the word dog. You're going to hear me use the word dog this year. Ian Jackson is a dog. Like he is a guy who you can plug on a team. Like, I kind of like. I think it'll be interesting again because Ian Jackson and Drake Powell. I have them literally 14-15. I purposely put them together, and I was like, I think they're good, but I don't know. I don't think the ceiling is like super high. So if you're going to take them, I think more of a playoff team is more inclined to take them because somebody like Ian Jackson on like Indiana would fit perfectly, right? That's exactly what Rick Carlisle wants. A guy who can guard 1 through 3 and can play the wing position, can shoot a little bit, doesn't need the ball in his hands because they want to put the ball in the hands of their guards. And then, but then on defense, whatever you need, Drake Powell
Let
and
him roll
Ian
with it.
Jackson
Yep.
is there. I think Drake Powell can get into that too, but I would not be shocked if Drake Powell come next year is at North Carolina again playing another year. But I don't think that's a detriment because like that happens.
No,
That happens
it's not a
before.
bad thing. We're throwing darts at a wall right now, projecting the lineups
Yeah,
and playing
right.
time. I
Yeah.
mean,
Hey, I just
I
gotta
don't
say,
take it too seriously.
shout out the fast break. We basically nailed every single lineup for the NBA this year,
We're
almost.
pretty good.
That's a
Pretty good.
pretty good. Give me somebody you want to talk about on your list.
Let's go with Kanan Catchings. BYU, he is their second best player on the team this year, expected after Jaeger. And I fully expect
We'll talk about him.
Jaeger Demon will hit in the top 10. But him being the number 2 on that team is huge. And him playing off of someone who has the ball handling skills and size mismatches that will be created is huge for him. And I think this is kind of like that bonus of like I talked about, Will Riley and Kasparis being the pairing. And they should help each other kind of situation. I think this is going to work very much the same way. He is a 3-4 tweener, and he is long, athletic, good on backdoor cuts, good on putbacks, good shot, not enough of a handle to be like a scary threat all the way around. Like Noah kind of is like Noah's more filled out than him, but I think Kanan is like really good as far as like I don't know. He's someone who kind of fell off rankings a little bit, but
he's not on my list. Yeah, he's not on my list.
Yeah.
So.
I'm very curious to see. He played the blue and white game for BYU, I think is what they call it. They're in-house. Looked really clean there, so I'm excited to see what he does to start the season. I think that he could show off a lot because he's got really good shot blocking instincts for a wing, which always is something that I love the idea of.
Yep.
If you can have somebody who can be affecting shots on the perimeter, huge bonus for your team.
Yeah, agreed. I don't know much about him, to be honest with you. So it's a good like 101. But yeah, I mean, shot blocking skills as a wing is one of the most important things. Like when you're talking about elevating a defense, because like Drake Powell and Jackson, I don't really look at them for that. I look at them more for on ball stuff. But it's like watching the Celtics with Derek White, right? Derek White and Drew Holiday. The reason their guards are so freaking good is because their shot blocking skills. So if you're a guard or a wing who has shot blocking skills, like we'll talk about that when we talk about Cooper Flagg, that is what separates defensively, because there's a lot of guys who can play good to elite defense on ball, but once you start making your impact off ball, I mean, like you've seen Paul George flip the switch kind of at 2021, 2022 on. He's like, I'm not as great as an on-ball defender anymore. Let me read passing. Like I'm sure if you have shot blocking skills and being able to read passing lanes off ball, like unless you're Ryan Dunn who can do everything, then you kind of like, you know what I mean? You got to pick and choose.
Yeah. Everybody's got their areas typically. You're right.
But if you have both, that's what I'm saying. Like if he has both, then I'm sure he'll shoot
Different
up boards.
tier.
Yeah, he'll shoot up boards. Somebody that we're going to talk about. We can bring up the Carter Knox conversation now. I watched OT last year and I was huge on him.
You're the one who made me watch
Rod Wave Elite.
Knox.
Rod Wave Elite, man.
I'd say also Kanan from OT.
Kanan. That guy screams Boston. Kanan. That's Kanan. Look at the pick. I love Carter Knox. I think he's definitely limited. It'll be interesting to see him in Arkansas or Arkansas. It'll be interesting because they're usually a wing driven, ball dominant guard system with like this. I'm going back to Kentucky because and the wings kind of get forgotten sometimes in the Kentucky system. We kind of, throwing it all the way back, we saw it with Devin Booker, right? Like the wings kind of get, unless you're the Harrison twins, you're not getting the ball like
15 years.
Not 15 years. That was the Frank the Tank year. That could not. Frank the Tank is not.
2009 draft.
Almost let the. I gotta say, by the way, we're almost an hour into recording and nobody's scored yet. This is a record. But yeah, I think Carter Knox, uber athletic wing. We'll see defensively where he exactly stands because it is so tough to tell straight off a high school tape what they're going to bring defensively unless they're above the tier. Carter Knox, the shot has to stay consistent. He's uber athletic, tons of rim pressure. We'll be interested to see how Calipari uses him and how much playing time he gets because he definitely is raw as a wing. So it'll be interesting. I am a big fan. I get stuck into the fab of Rod Wave Elite. Their stuff is awesome. I'll be interested to see how he develops, but an uber athletic wing who can do a little bit of everything is kind of my calling card. Especially when you'll see in my top 10 offensive wings. Or
you want to talk about the opposite of an uber athletic offensive wing?
Oh God,
who's a uber unathletic offensive wing is Con Knippel.
Yeah,
I mean, he's not unathletic, but he's not athletic for sure.
he was at 25 on my board, so
Yeah, I think that he deserves a shout out because he just can do everything offensively. Like, it might not be pretty, it might not be standoutish, but like he just is good across the board. You can't ignore his offensive output. And again, their game. Guess what? Guess who's scoring the points for them? He might end up leading points for that team, which happens to have a couple names on there that you might recognize in a hot minute. Yeah. I don't know. He just everything about his game is on the offensive side, and I will continue to say the offensive side.
You gonna talk about the defense, or are we gonna ignore?
We just don't.
We're gonna ignore that part.
That's
he's kind of
everyone does the same thing.
Yeah, this is the lazy analysis, but he kind of reminds me of Corey Kispert without the defense, and that is a little bit worrying to me. I think he'll be a great college player. I have no doubts that this guy. I don't know. I know that this guy. I know you didn't like Kispert originally, so you have that vendetta, but. In college, listen, Khan's gonna be the guy. He's gonna be scored like I already watched their blue versus white. I watched they post 3v3 and 4v4 scrimmage practice highlights. Like he is there, and his shooting is elite, right? He's kind of like him and Liam McNeely. Their shootings are both absolutely elite, right? Yep. I think McNeely probably has a little bit more to his game defensively than Khan does. But Khan is he's gonna be chucking that thing, and it ain't gonna stop the entire season. And especially when you're playing off of somebody as good as Cooper Flagg and a big as athletic as
oh no, they got past me. Oh, I tried. Good luck.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. He's gonna get looks. He's gonna score points. He's gonna make a ton of threes. He's gonna be one of the best shooters in the country probably. So somebody will take him in the first round. It just again, he is a guy that strikes me as like everything has to be right for his career to go well, because if he ends up on a lot of teams and his defense is as bad as I think it's gonna be, it might be over right away.
I mean, he's somewhere in. How far back do I want to take this? Like, could you see him being like a slightly shorter Kevin Huerter?
Yeah, I mean, Red Velvet had it though, so I guess we'll see. I don't know. Huerter wasn't as bad defensively until he fell off a cliff. Like he fell off a cliff after the 2021. I would know after 2021. Red Velvet killed us at Game 7, and then he fell off a cliff. So maybe he could be.
But I mean, that kind of guy who can get hot and help your team win games is that's what I look like it, or that's what I look at him as.
Or is he Doug McDermott?
Dougie McBuckets could get up. I'm just saying. Like,
yeah, but Khan can get up too. Khan can get up. It is so funny though, because I was watching Khan's AAU highlights, and it took me a minute to figure out who he was, because he just is this little stubby white dude, and he's just giving everybody the business.
People.
He's giving everybody the business. So I have no problem people rating him. I mean, I made him in my first round, but I have to see it. And again, it's a 1.0, but I have to see a little bit more about like defensively. If he can even be like slightly below average, we're there. I mean, we're there because offensively. But this screams like the Warriors. And if they have like their pick might be high though, so I don't want to say that but like they scream like a team that uses a ton of off-ball movement. That's where he's going to have to end up, or playing off of a dominant guard who's a great passer, so like the Grizzlies or something like that, or Trae Young and the Hawks. Like something like that's going to have to go right, because if he ends up on a team that has like if he ends up on the Blazers, he's probably out of the league in a couple years. You know what I mean? Or he's traded in a couple years. It's my only worry, and that's why when rating him, like I have to take that into consideration, that how large is their bust potential, and he strikes me as somebody who has. I'll see how he lays in the median right now.
Okay. I don't disagree with anything you put out there. I'm hopeful that he makes it work, and I'm just really going to enjoy that specific team in college.
Oh, they're going to be great. They're going to be great. I guess an interesting conversation. I'm assuming Dink Pate did not make your list.
No, he did. He was in my third section. Okay. He was 22.
Okay, you have 22.
He was right. He was right after Rocco.
Yeah.
You
have him 22. I have him 18. He's playing for the Mexico City G League team, I think, this year. Yeah, I think he's playing for them. He's interesting to me, all right? Because, like, he is one of those players that I keep looking at, and I'm like, you have to be good. Like you have everything, right?
There's 6'8" ball handler.
6'8" ball handler who's athletic, who can move. Like, you have to be good. So this year, Dave and I are sickos. We do watch the G League. We are sickos.
Last year was an absolute travesty of a season. Like, hey, let's go ahead and put together a team with no point guard. get a coach who can't coach and just tell him, go play iso ball for a while and take turns. And Ron Holland had his run well. Modest was hurt, and then Ron Holland wrapped it up for the season, let Modest run with the team for a little bit, and then Modest stopped playing. And then we got to see Dink Pate, who was 17 at the time, not draft eligible, run with this team. And it was basically him and I forget the wing who I really like, who ended up on the Timberwolves, I think. I'm blanking on his name. Leonard Miller was the year before.
Yeah, I was going to say Leonard Miller, but he was it's the year before.
Timberwolves.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I will.
I think like he has everything to be good, but this is definitely a guy who we have him on our 1.0s, and by the time we get to like a 4.0 or a 5.0, if he doesn't develop at the rate that we think he could easily be off the list. But I think I will say I do think even if he has a bad year, there's somebody that takes him in the second round at least, because there's just, like, listen, this is the guy, and we all have those guys that are still in the NBA that you refuse to give up on. And like Dink Pate strikes me as one of those guys. He literally has everything to be good. He's not bad defensively, doesn't have a bad shot. He's 6'8", like you said. Is it able to ball handle? Is able to initiate? Like, this guy should be good. And it's frustrating watching him last year. I'm glad he made the decision to still stay in the G League, but to go to an actual team that actually builds a roster out.
Agreed.
And it'll be interesting. Again, wait and see. That's kind of where I'm at with him. Like I said, with a lot of people. Is there anybody you would like to talk about on your list?
Tyler Smith.
Okay. Oh God,
it was Tyler Smith. That was their other G League player.
Tyler Smith. Shout out Soapy. Soapy loves him.
In this section, Bogo. We can go Bogo Markovic.
Yeah, I don't have him, so yeah, you go.
Yeah. So 6'10", 6'11", center, who has a really highly polished offensive game. For his age, again, talking about a guy who was born in 2005, so it's not like he's like a 21-year-old sneaking into this class, kind of like the Zavonimir and brother, and like those guys are like 21. Like, yeah. You're not really part of the class, but he's born in 2005.
Super seniors.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah, this is the 2005 class, by the way. Can we talk about that? They were born in 2005. Yeah. This is
wild.
Crazy. Sorry.
So Bogo played for Mega for the majority of his career growing up. He is someone who can shoot, pass, and score. Sounds a whole lot like other people, whether it's Şengün, someone who I really liked, Tomas Sabonis, somebody who I really liked.
You like Şengün?
Yeah, who would have known? Who could have seen that coming? But no, like he legitimately is like someone who will be able to stretch out. He's working on the 3-ball right now, but I think he'll be like a league average or close to it 3-point shooter by the time he's like in his prime in the NBA. So really excited about him as a player. Right now he runs really well with his size. He's not slow-footed, or he's not like a slow, big, like who's the guy on Washington they signed for no reason? Their center.
Oh, Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah, he's not like Jonas can shoot threes and play center. Not anywhere close. No. Bogo has size. He has speed. He has the ability to shoot a little bit from 3. Good rebounder. Good paint play. Defensively, he has a lot of room to grow, and that's just going to be nice. And I think it's someone who you should check out some games he's playing, because he is actually, one of the few guys who is young and able to be a highlight of his team. Last couple games in the ABA, 18-17-4, 17-10-4, 11-1-5, 12-7-2. Like, not to box score watch, but when you actually watch him play, like those raw numbers, he actually has an effect on the game. He actually is getting a large chunk of minutes to play and be a focal point, and he hustles his ass off. So I think he's someone who's probably not getting a ton of looks yet, but I think he will be on boards come draft time.
Yeah. Shout out to 2 players I just want to on my board, Boogie Fland and Jaleel Bethea. Absolute,
did not make mine.
Absolute, bucket getters.
That's their buckets.
Listen, if you have watched our previous content, I am a sucker for bucket getters. You'll see one in my top 10 that might not be everybody's cup of tea, but listen, Ian Jackson, not Ian Jackson, Boogie Fland. I was looking at my list. Boogie Fland. I don't know. I look at him as like better Jordan Clarkson. Like, he literally just gets bucket after bucket.
There's
after
a place
bucket.
for that in the league.
There is. I mean, Jordan Clarkson, if he actually, could stay consistent and efficient, would be probably on a contender, but he's still just wasting away in Utah. I just want to give him a shout out. I love bucket getters. They're some of my favorite players. And yeah, is there any final
Jones?
Yeah, he's at 16.
Jones.
He's at 16 on my list. What are your thoughts? What do you?
I love the man. I thought he was a first round talent last year. I'm shocked that he stayed in college, but apparently that teams did not want all three players from Marquette to come out at the same time. So, Kolek, NBA backup point guard extraordinaire as a rookie. I expect he gets ball.
Cam Jones, campaign backup. You mean? The backup
for how long?
Yeah, I know.
Dude, we watched that game in like 4 minutes and we're like, you need to just bench campaign. Yeah. And then Oso Iguodala was the other counterpart at Marquette.
Yeah.
The two of them together ran an amazing offense. And Cam was mostly the successor of that. Like, he had some of the best looks in college, best shots, and he was one of the most efficient players in college basketball. And I think that's the biggest thing is like, for someone who can take the volume that he's going to take, who can ball handle enough, who can score at the crazy rate he's going to score at, and he's built. Like, he's not like a thin, frail, like 6'3" guy. He's like 6'5" and strong. Like, he gives me Desmond Bane vibes. And I mean that in the most positive way you could possibly take it. Like, I am like that far in on him. I don't think he has T-Rex.
No. I was doing yeah. I
wouldn't be surprised.
I was doing the Bane thing. Don't worry.
Yeah. But no, I just think that like the crazy thing about Marquette, if you don't follow college basketball, for NIL being a thing it is, they did not.
Yeah.
They did not go transfer portal heavy. This is like the same guys they recruited. So they did not transfer portal. They did spend NIL money, but they didn't go transfer portal at all. Yeah. It's like, this is just legit in-house talent, whoever they recruited. So a lot of similar faces around the locker room, and he's just going to be asked to step up and be more of the offense.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how crazy high. I'm trying to find his stats, and I've got too many tabs. It disappeared somewhere.
You have a problem. I had him at 16. I really like his game too. I think I honestly didn't know that. I knew they were all at Marquette last year, and I thought, again, I had like limited knowledge from last year's. I was surprised he was also staying because he probably would have been a first-round pick. But I guess NBA teams do things on their own account sometimes that nobody knows why, like Desmond Bane falling to the end of the first round and all that kind of stuff, and Tyrese Maxey falling to 21, shout out, all that stuff. So, yeah. Alrighty. You good?
Yeah, just quick stat check for everybody at home. He did Bane versus him. He took 234 threes last year, made 40%. Bane took 198, made 43%.
Yep.
Not too far off. 2-pointers, though. Shot 57% from two.
He's real good.
Desmond Bane, 45.
Yeah.
Free throw percentage, also 72 versus 78. So, like, similar as far as scoring output, similar as far as expectations. For me, offense, like, BPM is spot on between the two of them. Like, I'm talking like this should be like the greenest of green flags for drafting an offensive like 2-guard. And I don't know what I'm not seeing here.
You think you're going a little bit crazy? Is that what it is?
I am, because I'm like, why am I so anti-consensus? Like, what
that's
makes
good, though.
Other people be like, this guy is not an NBA draftable player?
Yeah, that's good though. It's good to be the alternative. But that'll do it for our 11 through 20.
As always, we'd like to thank the people that make these videos possible, our patrons whose names are displayed on the screen now. If you would like to become a patron, go ahead and click the Patreon icon in the bottom right. And if you'd like to check out another video from MVP Sports, hit the video in the upper left. As always, thanks for watching.